Hi guys, and you're very welcome back. Now in this lesson and those to come, we're going to start adding the ability of allowing users to sign up to our Orbit application. We're going to use a HTML form to submit user sign up information. So just like you would do with any other sign up form on the internet. This user information will then be used to create a new user and save its attributes to the database. So in previous lessons, we've created new users via the console, and we saw those attributes such as user.name, user.email address. We're now going to be doing that via a user interface. We'll also create a profile page to display the newly created user information. As always, we'll also be writing a suite of tests. The lessons to come are a little more difficult than what we've seen so far, so as always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask me. And if you need to, rewatch these lessons as many times as you need. And the reason why the lessons are getting a little more difficult is because at the end of this class, you will have a professional grade web development application that you can use to add to your profile or to your online portfolio for potential employers or for anyone else to take a look at. Now let's begin to learn how we can show user information. Let's kick off by creating a page to display a user's name and other details as well as a photo. Eventually, as Orbit is a feedback application, we want to display a user's feedback. But right now it's time to create a new topic branch. So here I am in my terminal, and let's say git checkout -b for branch. You should be very familiar with this now. And we're going to say sign up form. Actually, let's say sign up, I haven't even put in sign up page. There we go. Hit enter. And we switch to our new branch sign up page. The pages to come will be our app's first truly dynamic pages, in particular the profile page. The view will exist as a single piece of code. Each profile will be different from the rest by using customized info pulled from the database. So I'll have a profile, you'll have a profile, and each individual user will have a profile. Right now, we're going to take a few moments to add some debug info to our site layout. Debug info displays useful information about each page and what's going on behind the scenes. So let's go to App, Views and Layouts. So on the left hand side, App, Views, Layouts, and Application.html. There we go. And where do we place this piece of code? Well, at the very end of our file, before the closing div, hit enter and type in %= debug brackets params if rails .env, so the Rails environment .development. So if our Rails environment is in development, so not production, show debug information. Close that out and save. So as I just said, by typing in rails.env.development, this restricts our debug info to the development environment. And while we're on the topic of environments, let's discuss those for a moment. Rails comes with 3 environments: test, development, and production. The default for the Rails console is development, and we've seen that before. So let's just jump into our terminal. So I'm going to do it here at the bottom of my screen, and I'm going to say Rails console. Now, as you can see on the first line, loading development environment. If I type in rails.env, I get an error because I should have used a capital O. Rails.env. I'm in the development environment, which we already knew. I can also say rails.env.development with the Boolean operator at the end, true. How about rails.env test? False, because I'm not in that environment. Okay, let me exit out of this. So as I mentioned, the Rails console automatically starts in development. But what if we want to start it in test? Well, we can easily enough do that with Rails console, so the same command, space test. And we would use the test environment for debugging purposes. But development is a default environment for the Rails server. So throughout these classes, we've been running the Rails server. So let's take another look at that now. So as you can see here on line 3, Rails application starting in development. So development is the default environment for the Rails server, but we can start it in production if we wanted. Let me just kill this server, and we can start it in production with the following command: Rails server -- environment production. Now let's hit enter and see what we get. Okay, it started it, and as you can see, Rails starting in production. Perfect. Now, if we were to look at our application via our web browser, as we've done in previous lessons, it won't work because when you start Rails server in production, you need a production database. And how do we create a production database? Well, we use a Rails migrate command. So let's take a look. Let me Control C there. And the command is Rails db .migrate Rails _env. So we're migrating the env to production. Hit enter. Let's see what happens. Our database and our tables, our migrations, have been moved to a production database. Throughout these classes, we've been deploying to Heroku. So let's take a look at what production environment that uses. So Heroku, run Rails console. So now we're running our console from Heroku. Let that connect up. Loading production environment. So Heroku automatically defaults to production. So we can just confirm that. Rails.env. Production. So let me just exit out of Heroku. Let me just start my server again. Now let me go to my web app. So here's our web app here. And as you can see at the bottom now, because we're in development environment, we have debug information. So the first thing it tells me is the parameters and where we're coming from. So the action controller. The controller we're using is HTML_pages, which we know. And the action of that controller is home. Okay, perfect. So we'll leave it there for this lesson, guys. So what we've done is, we've had an introduction to the lessons to come. We've set up our Git branch. And now we've added debug information to our application. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next lesson.